Hi everybody and welcome back to the channel. My name's Nicole and this is Dusty Book Sniffers, and today I'm here to talk about the Women's Prize for Fiction 2023 long list. So let's get started. Well, good morning or good evening everybody. It's that time. It's the long list time and it's just been announced and I'm super excited. I set my alarm for 4 o'clock this morning to get up to watch the premiere of it, and I am really excited to be reading these books. Now, I do the Women's Prize for Fiction a little bit different. I tend not to read a lot of new releases throughout the year that it is for. I might read a couple here and there, but for the most part I don't read a lot of new releases, so I'll read backlists and stuff like that. So this year I wanted to do things a little bit different. Now, I've never read the entire long list, although I have read a couple off the long list, but then I have focused on the short list. So last year you've seen me start my Discord, and we have a book club that runs for the second part of the year where we read the short list. Last year there was 6 books and we started with the winner and then we worked our way through that list. So this year I wanted to challenge myself and read the entire long list, and then when the book club starts, read those 6 again and just dive into those books a little bit deeper and try to understand why the judges picked those books. So what I've done this morning after the announcement, which there were some amazing books on there and they sounded excellent, they just give a brief overview of what they're about, and I'll link the video up down below so you can go and check that out for yourself. But I have written my list out. I've gone looking across all of my platforms. Now, I do like to get the physical books, but a lot of the books here in Australia on Amazon is mostly where I get them from. They were on pre-order, so I couldn't get the physical books, but I could get them on Kindle and Audible. So I also have a Scribd account as well. So I found a couple on Scribd. I found a few on Kindle, and I got a few on Audible as well. And in some cases, if it's a book that I think that I'm going to be really interested in, I basically get the Kindle with the audio, and that way I can just fall into the story and whatnot. So let's cut to what I am going to be reading and in what order. And of course, I am going to be starting one today, but I have to get through some editing first. Alright, so the first book that I am super excited about is The Bandit Queens by Parani, I think is how you pronounce her name. And this book is about a young Indian woman that finds the false rumors that she has killed her husband surprisingly useful, until other women in the village start asking her for help to get rid of their own husbands. This is a razor sharp debut. So that is the first book that I'm going to read, and I have that on audio. Okay, so the next book that I'm going to read is one from Maggie O'Farrell. It is The Marriage Portrait. Now, this one looks like maybe a historical fiction. I'm not too sure about what it's about, but it is set in the 1560s, and it's about a young girl named Lorenzia, I think is how you pronounce her name, and she is allowed to wander at her own will, but on the eve of the marriage to Alfonso, her elder sister has died. And so basically, having barely left her girlhood, she must now make her way into the troubled court, whose customs and all that sort of stuff come to light, and her arrival's not necessarily welcome. So I'm super excited to read this because I've heard good things about Maggie O'Farrell. I've not read anything of hers before, but I have heard good things about her. So I'm so excited that it is on the long list, and that means that I will have to read it. So I'm not entirely sure what this one's about, but just because of who the author is why I'm excited to read it. The next book that I am excited to read is I'm a Fan by Sheena Patel, and this is an exhilarating, addictive take on obsession, race, gender, and power dynamics through the lens of a corrosive relationship. Sounds awesome. Apparently it sounds a little bit dark, but according to the Women's Prize for Fiction video, it's not. It is a really compelling read, so I'm looking forward to getting into that one. Okay, so the next one that I'm looking forward to reading is Stone Blind. Now, I was struggling which place it was going to go on my reading list, because remember, I'm reading these most anticipated to least anticipated book. So Stone Blind has come in at number 4, and it is a retelling of Medusa. Now, who doesn't love a good Greek mythology retelling? I don't need to know any more about it. I'm just excited to be reading it, and it is by Natalie Haynes, and it's called Stone Blind. Okay, so the next one that I'm looking forward to reading, and this story just sounded very compelling. It is called Wandering Souls, and it's by Cecile Pin, and basically it is telling a story of a Vietnamese family that has escaped Vietnam, and they're refugees, and they end up in Britain. So there is a lot to be said about this on the synopsis, and I don't want to go into too much detail of the synopsises, because I'd like to go into some of these books a bit blind, but basically it says it's an extraordinary and heartbreaking debut novel, and we all know that I love debut novels. I just think authors put their best foot forward for those. So that is Wandering Souls by Cecil Pin. Okay, so the next one that I am going to be reading is The Dog of the North by Elizabeth Mackenzie. Now, this is a darkly comic new novel from this author, and unfortunately I couldn't get this in paperback. I cannot get this until April 5th, 2023. And basically it's basically following the story of Penny Rush. She has problems. She's freshly divorced, and she is basically traveling around, from my understanding, in a van. And it looks like she's borrowed the van, and it looks like a really funny read. I'm looking forward to reading this one as well. Okay, so the next one that I'm going to be reading is Trespassers. This is by Louise Kennedy, and it has several awards already, so it is on the long list. It is the winner of the Post Irish Book Awards for 2022. It was shortlisted for the Waterstones Debut Fiction Prize for 2022, and Observer's Best Debut Novel, another debut novel. I love debut novels. For Debut Novelist of 2022. It is also won a BBC Radio 4 Book at Bedtime, and a 2022 Book of the Year for the Times, Sunday Times, Guardian, Telegraph, The New Statesman, The Daily Mail, The Irish Times, The Irish Independent, and the Belfast Telegraph. Okay, so that has won a lot of awards from different places, and I'm super excited to read this one. Maybe this one should get bumped up the list a little bit, and then that way I'll get to it sooner. But again, I didn't buy this on, I ended up getting this one on Kindle. This is available, but I just ended up getting it on Kindle. But I'm thinking that this is going to end up on my bookshelf. Okay, so the next one that I'm going to read is Memphis, and this is by Tara M. Stringfellow. It was shortlisted for the Waterstones Debut Fiction Prize, and now it's on the Women's Prize long list. So it must be a pretty good debut novel. Now, this one doesn't seem to be available to purchase until July. We've got the pre-order on Amazon. Now, it is an international bestseller, and as I said, it was shortlisted for the Waterstones Debut Fiction Prize, and I'm getting this distinct feeling that it might be a bit of a dual timeline, because she's fleeing her husband and his explosive temper, and Miriam has brought her 2 daughters, Joan and Maya, back to Memphis, to the home her father built in the 40s. Joan was an only child the last time she visited Memphis. She doesn't remember the bustle of Beale Street on a summer night, or the smell of honeysuckle. And it just goes on to say that, about what she does, and she learns more about her family and discovers things and all that sort of stuff. So it sounds like a very, very much like maybe a family drama. I don't know anything other than that. Alright, so the next one that I'm going to be reading is Demon Copperhead. Now, this here is by Barbara Kingslova. It is on the long list. It is a multi-million copy selling author. Book at bedtime on BBC Radio 4, and also an Oprah book club pick. So it must be good if Oprah has picked it. That's what they tell me. Not that I've read any of the books off the Oprah one, but anyway. So basically, it is a once-in-a-generation novel that breaks and mends the heart in only the way a best fiction can. And Demon's story begins with the traumatic birth to a single mother in a single wide trailer, and I'm guessing that it just goes on from there. And and it is also set in the Appalachian Mountains of Virginia, and apparently it is a take on David Copperfield by Charles Dickens. Is that the name of it? I'm pretty sure that's the name of it. But anyway, so I'm looking forward to reading that. It sounds like a very interesting story, just of, struggle and all that sort of stuff. Okay, the next one that I'm excited to read is called Fire Rush. Now, this is a debut novel as well, and it is by Jacqueline Crooks, and basically it is about reggae, love, loss, freedom. Fire Rush is an electrifying state-of-the-nation novel and an unforgettable portrait of black womanhood. And I believe this is set in the 1970s, my decade of birth. So I always liked reading books from there, and about a young girl that is growing up in the 70s. So I'm looking forward to reading that. And and obviously you will get to hear my thoughts about them as I read them. All right, let's move on to the next one. So the next one that is by Priscilla Morris, and it's called Black Butterflies. Now, this is set in the spring of 1992, and it is around the Sarajevo War. So a little bit of historical fiction. Okay, so as I said, this is a debut novel. And basically she has to make the decision whether she's going to stay and fight or whether she's going to go to England to safety with her family. So I'm guessing there's a little bit of family drama in there, historical fiction, and it is also set, as I said, around the Sarajevo War. So I'm excited to read this, and the cover is just beautiful. I love this cover. I don't know why I'm drawn to it, but I just love it. And this one, again, I cannot get the physical copy until June. So I like to buy all the shortlisted. I don't necessarily buy the physical copies of the long list, but the shortlist I do, because we have our book club that we do at the end of the year where we read all the shortlists, starting with the winner of the 2023 Women's Prize. Okay, this is called Glory. It is by Violet Bulawayo, I think is how you pronounce her name. This was shortlisted. I have actually seen this around. I'm sure I've seen it around. Maybe I've seen it on the Booker Prize, because it says it was shortlisted for the Booker Prize. So I've seen the cover. Someone on BookTube was talking about it. It may have actually been Savage Reads, because I watched Savage Reads and Louise Savage Muses. I watch their channel, and they're very heavy into Booker Prize and Women's Prize for Fiction and whatnot. So I may have seen it on theirs. I have seen the cover before, and I just can't put my finger on it. Now, as I said, this is not a book that I'm super keen to read, but it was shortlisted, and it's exhilarating, funny, whip-smart novel about power, corruption, set in the animal kingdom. It's sounding, I don't know, I don't even really know what it sounds like, but it's on the list and I'm going to read it. I don't have much more to say about it, because as I said, this is starting to get down in my list of what I really want to read and whatnot, but I am still going to read them. All right, let's move on to the next one. Okay, so the next one that we are moving on to is called Cursed Bread. Again, this is not, the paperback is not due to be released until the March 2023 here in Australia. It has 192 pages, and basically this one sounded really bizarre. Like, it's an historical mystery about desire, memory, and madness, and apparently people in this small town start dying unexpectedly. The cover is just really weird looking as well, and it is by Sophie McIntosh, this one. So I'm not 100% sure about this, and basically I've just looked up the synopsis on this one. A dark, intoxication spreading through a town. When Elodie finally understands her role in it, it will be too late to stop. So I'm not too sure whether it's a mystery thriller or what. So, yeah. If you eat the bread, you will die, he said. The statement made no sense, but it filled me with electric dread, is one of the quotes that is taken out of the book. So it's going to be different, that is for sure. And it is a little ways down my list, but you never know, it could end up being a really, really good read. All right, so the next one that I'm going to read is called Homesick. It says on the cover, Homesick, a memoir by Jennifer Croft. Now, sisters Amy and Zoe grow up in Oklahoma, where they are homeschooled for an unexpected reason, and Zoe suffers from a debilitating and mysterious seizures. Spending her childhood in hospitals, she undergoes surgeries. Meanwhile, Amy flourishes, and it just goes on from there. So it's obviously comparing the two, and it says a memoir, so it must be a memoir, but it's a fiction, so it's a fiction prize. So I'm a little bit confused by that one. So that's why it's ended up way down the list, because I'm not 100% sure about that. Time will tell, because I'll end up reading it and you'll end up knowing all about it, and then you can make your choice from there. All right, the next one that we're going to talk about is Children of Paradise. So Children of Paradise sounds a little bit weird to me, okay? So this is by Camilla Grudova, and apparently it is set in an old movie theatre. So Holly applies for a job at the Paradise, and it is one of the city's oldest cinemas. Squashed into the ground floor of a block of flats, she thinks it will be like any other shift work, and then she'll clean toilets, sweep popcorn, avoid belligerent old owner, and and it just goes on from there. So I'm not 100% sure about this one. Apparently it is really good. The synopsis doesn't do it any justice, so I guess we'll find out in time. And finally, the last on my list is Pod by Laline Paul, and apparently this one, I'm not too sure about this one, although last year I read a book from the perspective of a tree, and that was a really good book. This one is from the perspective of a dolphin, from my understanding. Now, I have actually read the synopsis on this one, and basically has always felt like an outsider, suffered from a type of deafness, which means that she can't master the spinning rituals that unite the pod of spinner dolphins. When tragedy strikes her family, feels that she is partly to blame and decides to make the ultimate sacrifice and leave. Then she ventures into the vast and discovers dangers everywhere, from lurking predators to strange objects floating in the water. Just as she comes to terms with her solitude, a chance encounter with a group of arrogant bottlenose will irreversibly alter the course of her life. So it is a little bit strange. So it is actually last on my list. But as I said, last year I read Elif Shafak's book, The Island of Missing Trees, I think it was called. And that was an amazing book. I absolutely thoroughly enjoyed it. So you never know. This one could end up surprising me as well. All right, so that is the list. I'm super excited to read these books. And as I said, over on my Discord, when the shortlist is announced on April 26th, basically we will have our book club for the Women's Prize for Fiction. reading list, and I will reread them. And yeah, basically, hopefully, I will be able to understand a little bit why they ended up on the short list and why the winner was the winner, because I'll revisit those books at the end of the year. But in the meantime, I'm going to read all of these, and then you will get a vlog style video of all the things that I read and what I thought of them, and I might even do a predictions video and see if I'm right or not. We'll see. We'll just have to wait and see on that. But that is it for me today. I hope that you have a wonderful day and you're getting lots of reading in. If you have not yet liked this video, please like it and subscribe to the channel as well. And as always, keep turning those pages, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.